Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg isn't just using his platform to censor conservatives and influence the election. He's using his vast financial resources too. According to the Amistad Project of the Thomas More Society, Zuckerberg is spending $350 million to, quote, support election officials with the infrastructure they need to administer the vote. That sounds nice. What a patriot. Joining me now to discuss that is director of the Amistad Project and former Kansas Attorney General Phill Kline. So, Phill, is Mark Zuckerberg spending his $350 million on solid red states like Kansas and South Dakota, or is there something else going on?
Well, let me take you back to March of this year, when David Plouffe, President Obama's former campaign manager, published a book called The Citizen's Guide to Defeating Donald Trump. And in that document, in that book, he states, look, 2020, the election will come down to a block-by-block battle to turn out the vote in Minneapolis, Detroit, and Philadelphia. And you guessed it, that's exactly where Zuckerberg money is going. Philadelphia, Minneapolis, and Detroit. He's giving it through. Now, here's the problem, Kyle. You know, Mr. Zuckerberg has the right to do what he wants to do as a private citizen.
Sure.
He can support whoever he wants for an election. But instead of doing that, what he's doing is he's getting us to subsidize his effort by giving the monies to a charity and taking a tax deduction. And that charity is putting it in solid blue jurisdictions to turn out what was the Hillary Clinton vote for Joe Biden, and it's causing a disparate impact. Elections are supposed to be run by the states, not local governments. And so these monies are going into local governments. And let me just give you an example of what's happening in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, the Zuckerberg money is being used to set up satellite election offices, mobile units to pick up ballots, deputizing activists to go around and pick up ballots, essentially harvesting ballots, which has not been allowed in Pennsylvania. And this is happening where Hillary Clinton, I think she won 85% of the vote in 2016 in Philadelphia. At the same time, a blue state governor is making it harder to vote than in more than a generation in rural areas. So in rural areas, people with pre-existing conditions who are worried about COVID have to drive round trip 60 miles to vote because there aren't as many in-person voting places. So what his money is allowing is government to target one demographic to turn out and government to allow one demographic to have a difficult time voting. We've seen this before. That's voter suppression, and government should not play favorites in an election. That's our concern.
So the money, you say, is going to the Center for Tech and Civic Life. Tell me about that organization.
Well, that organization, as early as May of this year, reached out to the Democrat mayor of Racine, Wisconsin, and gave him $100,000 to keep 60 of it for his city, and to use the remainder to go recruit cities, Milwaukee, Kenosha, those cities that, again, turned out to vote for Hillary Clinton. TCL is operated by three persons formerly associated with the Obama administration, and they broke out of a Democrat activist group. And when they left that group, which could engage directly in partisan activity, a 501c3 can, but the partisan group announced that they were continuing everything that they were trying to do, but as a 501c3. So, let me back up, though. The real problem is not that Mr. Zuckerberg is telling people where to put the money. It's that he's running the election. He's telling cities how many polling places they will have, and that if they do not have it, they're going to take back their money. He's acting as the government in running an election, and we can't privatize an election. Imagine if this was Charles Koch doing this.
Right.
What would be happening? And I'll tell you what, if this is allowed, that everybody's going to be doing it in the next election.
Have you ever seen anything like that before?
It's unprecedented. First of all, we've never seen such a consolidation of wealth and power in one person's hands. The information that Facebook has is astounding. Their ability to determine what Americans hear and learn about is remarkable. And the wealth generated from that power is unprecedented. And now all of that power is being exercised to influence the election. That is deeply, deeply concerning.
So the Amistad Project is fighting back. Tell me exactly what you're doing.
Well, we have initiated litigation. We're trying to inform the public about it. We've provided briefings to those who ask, and we're getting interest and concern. I think a broad swath of the American public recognizes the problem here. It's just that in this environment, there's not much attention to anything but presidential politics. So it's difficult for people to step back and pause for a second and consider the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is paying the election judges in Philadelphia. The people who are going to determine what ballots are counted and whether a ballot is valid and the final tally are being paid by Zuckerberg. Now that should raise alarm bells everywhere.
So what is the mechanism to fight back? I don't know what the word is, but what's the mechanism? What's the oversight for that?
Well, again, it's unprecedented, and they are betting that we can't respond in time and that the election's going to be over before we can do anything. But we have filed 8 federal lawsuits seeking to stop this, and we're pursuing those suits aggressively and seeking remedies as it relates to that. The Attorney General of Louisiana has joined the effort. We've been conversing with them, and I believe it was 2 weeks ago, he initiated a lawsuit on behalf of the state of Louisiana, and that money has stopped flowing to Louisiana. So other states are taking notice, but we're the David, and we're facing the Goliath, and we could use as many people becoming aware of this and taking action against it as we can find. So I would encourage people to raise the alarm, contact their legislators, and say we can't privatize our elections. They can't be run by billionaires.
So Zuckerberg is using his personal financial resources to do this. But to me, when you see what Facebook and Twitter are doing, but Facebook obviously specifically, to me, it all just sort of runs together. I mean, if you have a platform, an outlet, it's not a platform, it's an outlet, like Facebook, regulating what people are able to say, and then you've got the CEO of that company doing all of this. I mean, it just sort of all runs together. So long term, how should these big tech companies be regulated when it comes to electioneering and picking and choosing who gets to speak and what they get to say?
Yes, well, as it relates to elections, we have to clearly prohibit the use of private funds to manage elections. Nobody should be able to stuff the umpire's pocket with cash before the game begins. And that's what's happening. So we have to prohibit it and stop it. And we're hoping that the courts will see that and do that. And also legislators will pass legislation expressly prohibiting it. We have to remove the protections that we have given to big tech that have allowed them to flourish and to have the ability to censor like they're censoring today. And I think Congress is finally starting to recognize that is a concern. And then we have to use antitrust law to tackle some of these corporations and break up that power, because it's too harmful to our democracy to have this narrow of a chokehold on free speech. Free speech is the lifeblood of a healthy democracy.
So you have less than 10 business days left before the election. Are you going to be able to stop this?
We're hoping, we're trying, we're doing all that we can, and we're pressing forward aggressive.
It seems very disturbing to me, and so you're filing these suits. What can states be doing right now? These states that you mentioned, Michigan, which obviously Attorney General Dana Nessel, she's not going to be a partner in this, or she'll be on Zuckerberg's side. Phill Kline, Director of the Amistad Project of the Thomas More Society. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Kyle, can I encourage your listeners to go to a specific website?
Yes, absolutely.
www.got-freedom.com. And they're keeping up to speed with what's happening.
Okay. got-freedom.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you so much for joining me today. For more of my work, go to Breitbart.com or find me on Twitter, Kyle Olson4. Use the same handle for Parler, Kyle Olson4, KYLEOLSON and the number 4. This is The Kyle Olson Show.